Be careful.
He's and Scott Higgins, both of them coked up out of their minds.
Listen to you. He's down in the basement. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I think we should call this the Acement.
The Acement, yes.
Yeah, what do you think there, huh?
I like that. The Acement Studios.
Excuse me, I'm drinking beer. Hold on a second.
We usually drink bourbon on our end.
Yeah,
when we
right.
do the podcast, so
That's all right.
feel free to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You shoot an 8-ball if you want. We don't care, as long as it's good stories.
And welcome to the Acement, everybody. It's time to go behind the funny. This is Scott Higgins.
This is Ace Aceto, wondering why the fuck you're doing jazzercise right now.
Oh, I'm so excited to be back.
Yeah.
To be
Scotty
back.
COVID is back.
Oh, my word. That
sounds like
kicked
shit.
I'm still a little out of it for those of you that are tuning in. I missed you guys. Mike Murray joined Ace last week. You guys had a hell of a conversation. I watched a little bit of it.
Good.
No, you guys did a great job. I watched a little bit. I was falling asleep, dude. I was so
that's nice. Thanks.
tired last week.
We bored you.
I'm sitting there and I'm holding my phone and I'm listening to my earbuds and I'm dozing off. I just couldn't stay awake last week. I was exhausted.
Mike
man. That
Murray's
kicked the crap
voice
out of me.
lulled you to sleep.
It did, as he was talking about sublimation. It lulled me right to sleep.
Welcome to the Acement. Thank you for joining us again with Scotty back. Our bourbon date this week. We have a few.
We're having a menage a bourbon this week.
We're double dating. We're finishing off the Four Roses.
Yes.
And when we finish that off, we got a little bit of Angel's Envy before we start a new bottle next week.
Well, that's how we're winning over the angel is by giving her roses.
Yes, exactly. Angel's roses. Boy, you're out of practice.
I am. I binge watched so much crap last week. You know, I did some work on the computer. I actually wrote a couple of jokes. Yeah. And they're probably going to suck because I have no idea if they work, but that's okay. I did some editing stuff for the podcast, obviously.
Yeah. Wait. Did you say editing?
Yeah, because I had time because I wasn't doing anything else.
Well, the one time you probably edited shit out, right?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Nothing. Not much going on. And then I just. Let me try out this new series that's on. Let me watch this. And like in a day, you're done with it because you're not doing anything else.
Shit, when's season 2? Oh, 2027.
Yeah. Exactly. And so watched a bunch of stuff and killed some time there. But excited to be back. And like I said, I love when Murray is on. He is just such a funny guy and great stories. And I once want to see Mike Murray just be like, yeah, it's been a rough week.
Right.
Things haven't gone real well. That guy is always Johnny positive.
Always positive. Always, in a good, not always in a good mood, but he's just always got a positive spin on everything. And what was cool was, he had been on the show way back in season 1, like he was on, but even before I was on, right? He was like episode number 2.
Him and Bill Simus were the first 2 episodes ever put out.
Right. So, and then obviously he's been on since, but it's always been with someone else.
Right.
He was on with his wife, Kathy. He was on with Brad Pierce a few times. He's been on some panel shows, but to be able to sit down and just talk to him. And again, that episode from season 1 isn't even available. No, unless you go to our Patreon.
Right.
So to be able to hear his story and then him be able to even share a little bit more, because obviously in the 5 years since he was on, a lot's happened. Yeah. He had a brand new model of cochlear implants put in. He's gotten, more speaking engagements out of it, versus comedy. So it was great to be able to catch up with him and talk to him about what's been going on.
Yeah, Mike's one of those guys that always has great stories, always has a fresh take on things. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And a couple of weeks ago when you were out, we had it. I had so much fun with Brian Vincent and Mr. Derek, I can't wait for my turn to talk, Fonseca.
He's such a wallflower. I know.
Derek's a great guy, and he really has a good take on things. He just doesn't know how to share the mic very well.
Yeah, I know. I was like, is Roman Pierce still on this episode? And then every once in a while, I'd hear Roman join in. And, Brian Vincent just comes in with a one-liner every once in a while, so he's still there.
Roman is just way too polite.
Yeah,
is what it is. Yeah. He honestly waits his turn, and I'm like, dude, you're in a room full of comics.
You can't do that. Not with comics.
And if you're waiting your turn, just go home because you're not going to get in twice. So but that was fun, fresh off the take of Will Smith and slapping our
the
Chris Rock
around the world.
I gotta ask you, because it's kind of died off already, which we knew it would,
right?
But
it's not in the
you weren't here to discuss it that night, but as a comedian, did you notice right after he slapped him and then he yelled at him twice, keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth, the little moment it looked like Chris Rock had where he just went, it was like, I could so smash you right now verbally, but I'm not gonna do it.
But I'm not gonna do it because I feel that Chris Rock was looking at it as, okay, I made a joke, a throwaway joke, off a little off color or offensive or taken in an offensive way. But he's probably standing there going, okay, you just lost your shit. I'm not going to stoop to your level and lose my shit. And
100%.
Oh, God.
Everyone,
promoting the merch.
We have new merch, 100%.
All right. You ask a question and now you go into a commercial while I'm answering you. I think he didn't want to lower himself to that level. I honestly, 100%. Because now, like this week, I think Will Smith was seen in India to go visit his spiritual advisor. There is a lot of shit going on in that marriage, I think. And I think he lost it. It was wrong to lose it.
Yeah.
But, this is why, mental illness is a serious subject, because there is a guy who lost his shit, who normally is very well controlled, has his shit together. And for whatever reason, I think and this is my personal opinion, I don't know anyone, I think the stress of what the past couple of years has been on him and his marriage, and the talk of, him not being enough of a man. I mean, I don't know. And again, I learn about everything by reading articles and watching extra. So I don't have the inside edge on this.
This is just,
they don't know who the fuck
speculation
I am.
And opinion.
But going by what you see, I think the guy is just under immense stress and lost it. Because, again, and you guys even addressed it. He seemed to laugh at the joke, looked over at her. She didn't look happy. That's when he got up.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was almost like he was trying to be like, I got to make my woman happy. I got to make her happy. She's not happy at this. I think he's just under immense stress.
And then,
not that it doesn't make it right. Don't get me wrong.
No. We're just stating, what we think is going on, not right or wrong. But then when she released her statement, she kind of hung him out to dry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
She didn't back him up or anything. It's the
season to heal, and I'm ready for that. What the fuck does that mean?
I didn't ask him to protect me,
right?
She said, and everything.
It was just the whole situation was weird.
It really is. And, and I feel, while I think that Will Smith was wrong, my opinion, he was 100% wrong for doing what he did. I feel bad for him. Yeah.
And you know what I feel bad for even more? I don't think there's going to be a Madagascar 4.
What the are you kidding me?
I was hoping. Well, they can't get them in the same sound booth again.
I like to move it.
Yeah, well, he'll do it, but you ain't getting Gloria the hippo and the zebra.
Back together. I forgot the zebra's name.
I forgot it. Marty the zebra. Right?
Yeah.
That's the thing that was so surprising.
Well, they don't do their voices together.
No, but they had worked together. They knew each other. again, I just.
But
think
I don't
I
don't think Chris Rock looked at it that he was going after anybody. He could have throwaway line.
Dude, he could have looked at Bruce Willis and said the same thing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Bruce Willis is going to be in G.I. Joe or something.
Tiffany Haddish was sitting at the next table with the same haircut.
Right. Yeah, could have looked at her.
Same haircut.
It was just an unfortunate thing. It was an unfortunate thing.
I think that just kind of set off Will Smith. I don't think that was the whole thing. That was like the straw that broke the camel's back.
And that's why I say all the speculation in the press about an open marriage or him not being fulfilling enough and her cheating on him with this other guy. And then the fucking press this week, I was reading something about the press went to the guy that she cheated on Will Smith with to get his statement. Like, why is he involved? Right. Exactly.
I don't see
crazy. The whole situation.
I don't see how an open marriage can work.
No.
You know, how does that? Hey, honey, why don't you go fuck that guy over there and then come back and we'll just pretend it didn't happen, or we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it.
And just and still be happily married and everything like that.
But that's the thing. I think that's all what. And again, this is me speculation. But I think that's what she wants out of it, and not him. He puts on a good face and says, "Yeah, we've talked about it, and we're grounded, and blah 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 blah." But I think ultimately it bubbled up and bothered him, and then
he out banging somebody?
I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't heard of.
No, he's in India with a spiritual advisor. She's probably banging the other guy.
Now, when I was reading about him this week, I read something that somewhat bothered me.
Yeah.
And because I'm a purist when it comes to certain things with like movies and entertainment.
Yeah.
There are certain movies that I think should never be remade.
Yeah.
Like you should never remake The Godfather.
I was just going to say that's the very first one.
That's number one on the list.
The Godfather.
Don't touch it.
Yep.
Don't go near it. Leave it alone. That is I don't think Jaws should ever be remade.
No, I don't care how fake the
shark is
looks.
A big rubber shark.
Honestly, I think it still scares the shit out of me. I know it's fake,
but who is going to do better than do a better Quint than Robert Shaw did?
No.
You can't recreate that. But in development, before all this happened, I don't know if it's still going to go down.
Yeah,
they were in the process of remaking or starting pre-production for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with Will Smith and Kevin Hart. Now, I like both of them.
I like both
of them. But to me, you don't touch Steve Martin, an icon, John Candy, an icon. That's an iconic movie. You don't touch that movie.
My thing is,
don't touch that movie.
Scotty 2 times just came out.
I'm sorry, because one time I had this discussion on a podcast about my top 5 all-time favorite movies, and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was in my top 5.
No, I
can't
agree.
remake that movie.
I agree, and I don't understand why is it we have to make like another version of it. Like obviously that's the black version of of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. They had the female version of Ghostbusters. I'm not saying these people aren't great actors, but why can't we just come up with original stories? Right. Why does everything have to be rehashed?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I personally like, Fridays. Yeah, Fridays. I like that movie. I don't want to see a fucking white cast redo Fridays. I don't want to see a white cast do, I don't know.
To me, it's not even.
You're telling a story.
It's not even a black-white thing.
No.
How can somebody play that John Candy character that is so irritating, and then at the end pulls on your heartstrings as well as John Candy did in that movie?
No, but
because he's that lovable lug and he was perfect in that role.
But they're going to make Kevin Hart the little annoying guy who pulls at your heartstrings.
But it's not going to be the same.
No, of course not.
Be. And again, nothing against Kevin Hart. Nothing against Kevin Hart.
I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying, you don't need. I don't know how I probably painted myself in a corner.
No,
it's not a black-white thing. What I'm saying is
they always come up with an alternate version of these movies.
A story is a story. Why does the story have to be retold with a whole different demographic? You know what I mean?
Oh,
Again, like I said, I love Fridays. I love Medea. You don't need to remake them.
Your Ghostbusters example was great
Yeah.
because the original Ghostbusters movie, fantastic. Ghostbusters 2 was okay.
Good.
I thought Afterlife was decent.
I loved Afterlife.
I thought they did a great job to pay tribute to the original and then kind of bring it to
the new
audience and a new generation. The remake with the women, now Melissa McCarthy, one of the funniest people on the planet.
Fucking Leslie Jones,
Kate McKinnon, is one of the best cast members in Saturday Night Live.
Right. You know what the problem with that movie was?
The writing wasn't very good.
Right. The problem with the movie was it was like an identity crisis. It was
right.
It's a reboot, but it's not a reboot, but it's kind of a reboot.
It's a reboot, but we're going to make it our own. But they never really did.
No. And like you said, the writing and the cast was great, and they did the best that they could, but the writing was just not there.
Great cast.
So in case you haven't noticed, folks, if you are listening and watching, I have emailed our guest who confirmed with me yesterday, but they're not on. So I hope everything is okay.
Yeah.
With our buddy John Moses. But I'm waiting to hear back from him. So in the meantime, we're gonna keep talking about
we're gonna shoot the shit. We haven't seen each other in a couple weeks.
I know it's been a few weeks. So what else is going on? What else is in the news that's funny? I mean,
well, I don't know. I don't know if it's funny, but I
just don't want to talk about the war in Ukraine, is what I'm saying.
No,
I know that's in the news, obviously, but I don't want to talk about it.
It's just the movie thing hit me when I saw that today, because I am, if I love a movie, I love a movie.
Yeah.
And I can, like, we mentioned The Godfather first.
Yeah.
I've probably seen The Godfather 50 times in my life. And to me, that is probably the perfect movie from beginning to end.
Absolutely.
And like, people argue which one's better, 1 or 2. To me, they're both an extension of, they're one movie.
Absolutely.
Because it's a continuation of the same story. But, so when I read about the Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, I'm like, oh my God, are they going to reshoot Caddyshack next?
Right.
You can't take these classic comedies and redo them, because the timing, the characters were so well done at the time.
Right.
That you can't reshoot them. Create a new one. Create something new.
There's plenty of stories out there. That's the thing that kills me. So we had Nick Pasianos on a couple of months ago, right?
Yes.
Talked about the book, talked about the script. There are people who are writing new original stories every fucking day. And what happens? Those scripts are laying in languish all over Hollywood, but they'll fucking remake every other goddamn movie because it worked before.
How many comedians get on stage every week and tell funny stories?
Yeah.
Tell funny stories.
Yeah.
Some guys, there's one-liners, there's different, but there are great storytellers.
Yeah.
You can't go out into comedy clubs like they used to back in the day,
right,
and find some guy and go, that story
is funny.
This guy, his whole act is a continuation of a story. We could probably come up with something like that.
And in the old days, it would be made into a sitcom, but now make it into a movie.
You could, or you could, nowadays they could shoot a whole season 1 and throw it up on Netflix or something like that. There's so many options, but they're waiting for the next big thing to pop up on YouTube or TikTok or something like that.
Yeah.
They're not going out and doing the legwork like they used to anymore. And because I see guys all the time and I'm watching their act and I'm like, holy shit, you could write a sitcom with half this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And nobody goes out and,
no one
and
goes
sees
out
this
and,
stuff
and
anymore.
looks at it.
But the other thing in the news, obviously, is the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing.
Yeah.
I saw a clip today. I didn't know much about this till I started reading it. But today, Amber Heard's lawyers are buffoons.
Oh, yeah.
They just look stupid, because one of them started asking Johnny Depp questions when he was on the stands when they were doing their counter.
Yeah.
And his lawyer objected, said he just answered all these questions. It was like they didn't even listen.
It's like they didn't listen. Yeah.
And then
they wanted him to answer it in, when they asked it.
And then this one guy is reading headlines from different articles that were on internet. Johnny Depp was so drunk they couldn't film some days on Pirates of the Caribbean. And the guy goes, did I read that correctly? And Johnny Depp says, well, that was this type. The guy goes, no, that's not what I asked, Mr. Depp. Did I read that correctly? Yes, you did. So after about 3 times, Johnny Depp got pissed.
Yeah.
Because the guy kept saying that. So the guy reads another headline. Johnny Depp's spending through his fortune and is going to go broke in a couple years. Did I read that correctly? Yes, you read it very nicely.
Yeah,
and he started being sarcastic as hell.
Yeah, he should.
And he kept getting more
that doesn't
sarcastic.
mean it's true just because you read it. You're asking me if you read it correctly.
The guy read the next one and he goes, did I read that one correctly? He goes, yes, you have a wonderful speaking voice.
Yeah.
And I am like, good for you.
Is that when, because I heard there was an outburst of laughter and then the judge got pissed off and judge said, there needs to be order in this court. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Something's fishy about that whole story. Well, I mean, he's a weird dude. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, God.
But I think she's full of shit.
Well, they showed a video that she was taping right after he found out his mother had passed.
Yeah.
And he was flipping out in the house.
Yeah.
Like punching the wall and kicking stuff. And she entered that as evidence of him flipping out on her.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Come on.
So I don't know.
That's ridiculous.
I don't. And that's the thing is, people always, when you think of spousal abuse or domestic abuse, you always think of a woman getting beaten by a man because probably 75-80% of the time that's probably more true than anything.
Right.
But it does happen the other way around.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, my father raised us that you never raise your hand to a woman. Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. I remember in high school, a friend of mine, him and his girlfriend were having a fight in the middle of the hallway, and she smacked him across the face in front of all of us, and he never raised a hand to her.
No.
Because you don't raise your hand to a woman.
Right.
So I don't know if Johnny Depp was raised that way, but there's something weird going on.
Definitely something
there.
weird.
But I wanted to see him when he was on the stand and they were reading those articles, titles to him. Yeah. Him breaking to Captain Jack Sparrow and go, I can't do that.
You just sounded like Thurston Howell the third.
I love it. I really like how he did that one.
Want to go on a pirate ship?
Put up the mainsail.
Okay, it's already too far into the bourbon, isn't it?
It's good to be back into bourbon.
What, drinking grandma's cough medicine?
Grandma's cough medicine. All right, buddy. I gotta ask you. I felt when I heard that Gilbert Gottfried had passed away, dude. I honestly felt so sad for one because as a comedian, obviously he's a guy we look up to.
Yeah.
But I felt sad for you because I know he's been one of your heroes for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And how are you still going to, how do you feel about doing the impression now?
Dude, I have no problem doing the impression for the sheer fact that I know Gilbert's own words, would be what? Too soon?
Yeah, true.
He would not care.
True.
So it's not like I feel I would be irreverent to him. I just don't know how audiences are going to take it where my old joke that I've been doing for years about Gilbert and Bobcat doing the morning traffic and all that. I don't know how audiences are going to receive it. It's really going to depend on how audiences receive it.
But I thought about you with the Gilbert Gottfried thing.
But it's funny because last night I was at, we were helping. So we're literally a couple of days from the new Comedy Park opening with the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame. And I was there with Rock and Joe Hebert. And he goes, what are you going to do about Gilbert? And I said, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. And he goes, you can't give up that impression. That impression is just too good.
I agree.
He goes, but maybe it's an opportunity to write a totally new joke. So this is in the very, very infancy of a joke, but and we have heard of, you've heard of. I hate to sound. I don't want to make it a hacky premise, and unfortunately, with impressions, sometimes
it's hard.
It just is hacky. You can't help it.
Yeah.
But if it's hacky, but you can make it funny, then I don't think the audiences mind as much.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Of course.
The very first time I ever worked with Tom Cotter was at Stitches Comedy Cafe.
Yep. Downtown Providence in the mall.
And at that time I was doing my Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yep.
And I did it the first show and I come back and he goes, That's a really good impression. I go, oh, thanks. I go, I don't do a lot of impressions. I do a couple, but that's one I like doing that one. Right. I find it funny. And he goes, oh, you do really? I said, I'm probably gonna stop doing it. He goes, why? I go, it's kind of a hacky. And he goes, who said it was hacky? And I said, nah, a couple people. He goes, people say that because they can't find something funny with it.
That's true.
He goes, if it's an original thought, just because you can do the voice,
right,
it's not hacky.
You have to make it funny.
He goes, hacky is taking somebody else's premise, somebody else's joke.
Right.
He goes, if it's original to you, it's not hacky.
Right.
He goes, if it's funny and it's original, it's not
have
hacky.
to work it out. And like I said, it's in the infancy of a joke, but Rockin' Joe was kind of working with me last night. And I think,
and Rockin' Joe's not funny at all.
Yeah. I love Rockin' Joe.
I love him too.
No, but the idea of Jesus, we've lost so many great comics in the past 18 months, and some of them I can do impressions of. So he was like, some of these people like Gilbert, like Norm Macdonald, they're not going to heaven. So it's not these guys getting to the gates of heaven. It's these guys getting to the gates of hell. And what would they be doing in hell? And so Joe came up with this idea of everyone having specific jobs in hell. And his idea for Gilbert was like he was the weatherman in hell, and Norm Macdonald could have something else in hell.
That's a good premise.
So it's a kind of a good premise.
That's a good
premise.
Of
course, I started messing around, and then he's like yelling out like people that are alive, and I'm like, well, God, I don't want to jinx anyone and wish for them to die so that they could end up in my fucking joke. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think there's a little kernel of a joke there that I think that I could make into something that would be pretty funny, but it's so weird. I have been the joke that I do with Gilbert and Bobcat on AM radio.
It works so well.
I have literally been doing it. It was one of the first jokes I ever wrote. I've been doing it 33 years and it still works.
I was just going to say,
if it wasn't working, I would have thrown it out years ago.
And
it works out of state too, but not just in Rhode Island.
Because people like you've said, when you set up the joke, if you listen to AM radio, everybody has that AM radio guy.
Right. They all have that announcer voice guy.
And, if you've ever seen, there's, if you guys like watching specials or documentaries or things like that, HBO had this one called Talking Funny. Did you ever watch that?
I don't know if
it was Ricky Gervais, Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, and Louis C.K. And they basically broke down being funny, and they broke down jokes, and they broke down different things. And it was a great conversation. And Chris Rock said it. And you just basically explained what he said. He said how important premises are.
Yes.
And setups. He's like, if I have a good premise and set up this joke correctly, it will work forever.
Right.
And it'll work well. He goes, so many people think of a funny punchline and don't set it up correctly, that the punchline loses its punch.
Yeah. In other words, they have a great punchline, but they build a shitty joke around it.
He goes, people don't understand that, yes, you want a great punchline, but you need a great setup for the punchline.
Right.
They both work together in harmony. You can't have a shitty premise and setup and a great punchline, or a shitty punchline and a great setup and premise. You got to have both to make it work. He goes, you can't mail one in or the other.
Yeah.
And he was completely right, because both of us have jokes we've been doing since we started.
Yeah.
That still work.
And that's the thing. I mean, is it going to work in front of a 20-something-year-old audience that doesn't understand the concept of laying in bed, listening to AM radio, waiting for school cancellations? No, because they fucking just watch TV and it came across a ticker on the bottom.
Nowadays they get texts, but you know what?
Text, yeah.
And you know what? This is what comedians do, people. And that's what we do on Behind the Funny, is we try to get behind the funny. Is we'll be talking like this sometimes, hanging out somewhere, and all of a sudden we'll be like, you know what would be a great idea?
Yeah.
Is, kids nowadays will get a text.
So now you turn it around and you just say, yeah, see, you kids don't even understand what we had to go through. You get a text to say, hey, you don't have school today. You know what we had to do?
We had to
lay in bed and
radio.
listen to AM radio.
Can you imagine you getting a text on your phone where all of a sudden you hear a voice going, boom.
Right. You adapt the joke.
Right.
And that's why I would hate to give up that joke.
You don't have to.
But
I don't
the idea, but I think in different situations, the idea of having that joke of, and I like that premise because and what do we do in comedy? We take tragedy and turn it funny. So the tragedy of losing so many great comics over the past 18 months, you turn it around and say, yeah, but these were some irreverent fucking people and they didn't end up in heaven. They ended up in hell. And what would that be like? You know, they would have to have a job because they didn't have a real job in life. They were a comic.
Right.
What would they have to do when they went to hell? And that's where, then you start coming up with ridiculous jobs like Gilbert Gottfried as a weatherman. You come up with some ridiculous, like, I don't know, Norm Macdonald as a police officer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know what I was thinking of at first, before we went on the air when we started talking about this, is imagine those guys when they pass away trying to sneak into heaven.
Right. Yeah.
Before they get sent down to hell.
Before they get sent down.
They're trying to sneak in heaven. And because there's no way Gilbert's sneaking in with that voice.
Right. Right.
Yeah, like nothing to see here.
But see, I haven't done a Bill Cosby impression in a long time. And he's going to hell.
Oh,
so as soon as he dies, I'm adding that fucker.
Oh, yeah.
Right, that would, I mean?
That would be perfect. Now, but the thing is, you know, when you do like the Gilbert and the Bobcat, you're not making fun of those guys. And the reason I'm saying that is because one time I was working with our friend Cal Verducci, who we've had on here,
who does impressions as well.
And Cal does, he's very good at impressions too. And he used to do one of the Crocodile Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
But some of Cal's impressions of people was him
making fun of them,
making fun and tearing that person down a little bit. Well, we were working together at a club. I'm not going to say where.
Yeah.
And we get in, and it was the day that they announced that the Crocodile Hunter had been killed.
Oh, Jesus.
It was the day
he still did
that it
joke
happened
and tore him down.
And we're in the green room and we're hanging out. I was hosting, Cal was featuring, and I forget who the headliner was. And the manager comes in and she goes, "Hey, Cal, I really don't think you should do the Crocodile Hunter joke tonight."
Right.
And he goes, "Why?"
The guy fucking died that day. Tragic accident.
Because it's Cal.
Yeah, he's his own worst enemy. Right?
I love the guy, but
he's his own worst enemy.
He is.
Right.
And he admitted it when he was on here. And she goes, "Well, the guy died today. He was killed. I mean, you really should talk about it." He goes, "Yeah, but it's kind of like a tribute." She goes, No,
it's not a tribute.
You really shouldn't do it.
Right.
So he goes, now she leaves the room and he goes, "It's not her job to fucking tell me what to do." And I'm like, oh, this is not going to go well.
This isn't going to go well.
So he's up there and he's doing great. They love him. He hits the point where that joke is.
Yep.
He, as soon as he says, "like the Crocodile Hunter,"
there was an audible gasp.
Dude, not even an audible gasp.
Air getting sucked out of the room.
It was like they muted the room. It was literally like when you're in the car and you can tell your kids are singing in the back seat to the radio and you turn it off real quick to have them say. That's exactly what happened. The entire room muted and he finishes a joke and nothing. And they decided in that very moment, fuck you. We don't like you.
And we don't like you for the rest of your set.
So, and the rest of his set was done at that point.
See, I wish that had happened to me. The day of the Sandy Hook shooting, I was at the Kowloon. It was my first time at the Kowloon for that weekend. And I got a great endorsement.
You didn't do like a shoot me in the head joke or something.
No, I didn't even do that. It was just, when you're nervous, when you're auditioning for someone, you're like,
kind of heightened awareness.
I've got these jokes that I know are always going to work, so I'm doing those. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. But unfortunately, it was all the stuff about going to Catholic school, and you remember when you were in school and blah blah blah. And I'm talking about being a kid and going to school, and it was just the audience didn't hate me, and I had a good set. But there was a heaviness in the room that day.
Yeah, of course.
Because of what had happened earlier in that day.
I'm surprised they had a show because so many places canceled that
I'll
night.
be honest, I was surprised too. And I honestly didn't even, on nights where you're like, oh, I don't even feel like doing a show tonight.
Well, I remember
that's how I felt. I was sick to my stomach.
I had a show that night, and they canceled.
One of my kids was in kindergarten. At that time. And I'm like, I can't even imagine what those parents are going through today. I was just, when you're in you get bad news in a day and you're just in a funk all day, and then you somehow have to do a show that night.
Yeah.
Again, it wasn't a horrible set. It wasn't a great set. It wasn't as good a set as I normally would have had.
Well, and I guarantee you most of the audience probably doesn't even remember you that night, because the way kind of the world was in that moment. Because I remember I had a show that night and they canceled.
Yeah. A lot of places did cancel.
They just canceled. They said, we're going to reschedule. And I was like, that's fine. It was like a dinner comedy show type
and
of
honestly, if they had called and canceled, I would have been like, absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But because it was the first time I was going to get to work there, and I was only featuring, like, just to get my foot in the door, I was featuring, and Robbie Prince was the
headliner.
No, Harrison Stebbins was the headliner. Another guy, two guys we got to get on this fucking podcast.
Both of them that you just
said, those
said,
guys, hilarious Boston headliners. We're gonna you'll hear them in the summer. I'm gonna beg them to come on. But Harrison, I remember the booker was like, he was like, oh, who else is on the show with me? It was Mac Livingston was opening, and she said Ace Aceto's featuring, and then you're headlining. And she said, I've never, had Ace Aceto on before. Is he good? And he goes, well, he's good enough. I don't want to follow him. So, I mean, that's an endorsement when someone says that. And then I just felt like deflated afterwards, because I just felt like I just didn't have a good set.
Well, that's
and again, my not good set was me probably at a level 7 instead of a 10.
No, I get it. I get it. And all we can hope in those moments when you have such a heavy fog like that is that maybe we made them forget for a little while, and maybe we lifted some of that stress.
I would hope,
because there's really not much else you could do,
because it was really only heavy during the school cancellation stuff. Once I got into the other stuff, it was fine.
No, I know what you're saying.
But it still weighed on me.
Yeah,
and I also didn't feel like being funny.
Were you in your own head when you were doing the school cancellation stuff? You had to have been.
Well, no, I wasn't at first. And then I started talking about school. Like, I went to Catholic school. How many people went to Catholic school? And then I started talking about the nuns making us have recess during the blizzard of 78.
Yes.
And now I'm going, and they didn't even, we didn't get to make a snowman. We had we played dodgeball. So as I'm saying these things, and I'm getting like a 6 out of 10 from the audience, I'm sitting there going, why isn't this working? And then in my head, I go, oh, fuck. I'm talking about schoolyards.
Yeah.
It just didn't even hit me.
Because you were auditioning.
Right.
You had your set planned.
Right. And I wasn't even thinking
and you didn't deviate from the plan because I
knew
what you wanted to do.
Was going to work.
Because you wanted to do your A material. Mm-hmm. And under normal circumstances, that was your A material.
Exactly.
No, I totally get that. That's brutal.
Hey, folks, just so you know, I don't know what's going on with our guest. There's obviously an issue came up. So we're just kind of talking about comedy in general, which is behind the funny. It is what we're all about. But if you are watching and you want to drop a comment, drop a question.
Yeah.
About anything, about comedy, about bourbon. Yeah.
We've tried enough of it.
We keep talking about that bourbon trail. I think not this summer. Summer of 2023, we need to start learning about some Kentucky comics. And we got to go on the road and do the Bourbon Trail, and we'll stay at a different hotel each night. Or I don't even know how big the Bourbon Trail is, how many miles it is. We'll have to do some research. But I would absolutely love to do an episode at Buffalo Trace, at Angel's Envy, at each one of these places, Jefferson's, at each one of these places with a comic from the area.
That would be fun.
I think that would be a fucking blast.
Would be a blast. They do tastings there.
Exactly.
So I bet you if we reach out to their media people ahead of time, we can get that set up. And,
I think we could. So that's our plan.
So
for
anybody
2023.
listening, if you have any connections with any of the distilleries in Kentucky, let us know.
Or listen, our buddy Justin Michael Morales, who we had on the show
I bet you
a couple of months ago, could hook us up.
We'll have to talk to Justin. Or if you know any comedians from down in that area,
let us know.
Yeah, let us know. We'd love to line something up.
Kentucky comedians.
And honestly, people, if you know any comedians at all, any local comedians in your area outside of New England that you're like,
Yeah, we absolutely are not. I mean, listen, we pulled from what we know.
Right.
So that's why you hear a lot of Boston and New England comics. We've gotten some people from LA and Vegas, and we're working on some other ones. But listen, we understand there are great comedians from all over this country.
We just don't know.
And we don't know them. So if you know of great comics that you've seen, let us know. We'll reach out to them. We'd love to have them on the podcast, because that's essentially Behind the Funny is about learning about comics. And it doesn't have to be someone from New England or New Jersey, New York. I mean, there's still so many New York and New Jersey comics that we want to reach out to. John Fish, another Boston guy who moved to New York years ago. I want to get him on.
Yeah.
John Porch / what's his real name?
I don't know what he goes by now. I forgot.
He goes by his real name.
Yeah,
I can't think of it. But we had him on as part of the Rogue Island Comedy Festival a couple of years ago. But I want to get him on his own.
Well, one of the people that we had on during the festival for a few minutes, Alyssa Lynn Paris.
Yes,
I'd love to get her on for a full episode. She's done a few movies now and stuff.
She's actually on tour right now.
Yeah, she was hilariously funny.
I don't think
very
she's
talented.
with that guy anymore, too. That other comic that she was with, because I was stalking her profile. She's a cutie.
She is, and even that guy.
And he was very funny.
He was hilarious. Yeah, and I follow him on social media.
Oh yeah,
and he posts some of his videos of his live performances. He's a funny ass comic.
Yeah, we got listen, folks.
There's some great comics out there, and if you're in the New England area, especially Rhode Island, check out the Rogue Island Comedy Festival.
Yeah, we're actually working on getting Katie Latimer, who's the marketing manager for the Rogue Island Comedy Festival, and Doug Key, who is the creator and
founder runs it
of the Rogue Island Comedy Festival. We're working on getting them on later on in May, because they're now doing the festival twice a year. They're doing it during Memorial Day weekend and Columbus Day weekend. So there's 2 times during the year.
And Doug has done a great job of bringing in a wide selection of comics, from new to seasoned.
What I love
to people that have been he's brought in Saturday Night Live writers. He's brought in people that have had Comedy Central specials. I mean, he brings in such a wide array of comedians.
What I love about Doug too is, if you talk to the comics, they all agree this is a comics comedy festival.
Yes,
they're not treated like a piece of meat. They're not treated like a number. They are put up in great accommodations. He gets Airbnbs, and some of them, I mean, when we were there a couple of years ago, they stayed on a fucking boat, like a yacht.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because it's a true festival,
right?
It's not a contest.
It's not a contest, right?
And
that's nothing against some of because I will say, Jim McHugh and the Boston Comedy Festival,
absolutely,
you're not getting treated like a number either. You are a true. It's a true festival, but it is a contest too.
And I was lucky enough to, the last 2 years I was part of the Boston Comedy Festival.
Yeah.
2 years ago it was virtual,
right? Which
was a little weird, to say the least, but that was the only way they could do it that year.
Right.
This past year, I was lucky enough to actually go up and host one of the preliminary rounds.
Yep.
Which was a lot of fun. And, Jim runs a great festival, but I've done other contests, which feel like a contest. The Boston Comedy Festival doesn't feel like a contest. It feels like a festival.
Yeah, it does.
Right. So
it feels like a festival.
I don't want to paint with a wide brush because
look at when we were there 3 years ago now, when we did the show at the comic book store.
Oh yeah, for the Boston Comedy Festival.
For the Boston Comedy Festival, and it was a festival. It was fun, And then when we got done with our show, we went over to the main place. And we were hanging out. Dude, it was so much fun.
We keep talking about comics. We're gonna have on Vinny. the kid that was on the show that
Vinny
night.
Powell.
Vinny Powell.
That's right.
We're gonna have Vinny Powell.
We're gonna
on.
have him on. He wrote a book. He sent us his book. We should have him on.
The kid reaches out to me all the time.
Does
says,
he?
"How you doing?"
I haven't heard from him in a while.
He's funny kid. We met.
But I got hacked by Russians on my Instagram, which I heard you assholes talk about the entire show.
Hello, my
Isacito.
name is Isacito.
Yeah.
I am here on the Instagrams.
You guys, that was
Dos
funny.
vidania, my friend.
It was funny.
Oh, we had so much fun.
I
with
know
that.
you did.
But
Vinny,
when we did the Boston Comedy Festival, we had Jim gave us our own show, which was great. Booked a bunch of newer comedians, which were great guys. We each guy did a few minutes of actual stand up, and then we talked to them.
Yeah,
and this
had a panel show.
And honestly, I would have every guy that we had that night as a guest.
I want to get that kid. I forgot his name, but the kid from Long Island that was like a regular at Governor's
that told that awful story.
Yeah,
that was hilarious. But this one guy, Vinny Powell, he actually toured with Jim McHugh in India. Right. And he was just a great storyteller, likable guy. And
he used to intern at the Boston Comedy Festival before he became a comic.
He is a workhorse when it comes to comedy.
God, yeah, he is a hard worker.
He is constantly on the road, constantly grinding it out. He reaches out to me every once in a while on Facebook. Hey, Scott, how you doing? How's things going? And I would love to talk to him because he is one of those guys like Mike Murray. Just always positive, always out there, always smiling.
Yeah.
One of those guys, just really, really nice. I think he would be a very interesting guy because of the international performing that he does.
Yeah, no, exactly. I know Solian Green just posted a comment. Was it like Kill Tony, but you don't roast the performers? I don't know what let us know what that meant. Which, because you might have just put that up, and it might have been about something that we were talking about a couple of minutes ago.
It's a very difficult situation.
Yeah, was it like Kill Tony, but you don't roast the performers? Yeah. No. I think he's talking about the Boston Comedy Festival, the panel show. I think.
Well, what does Kill Tony mean?
I don't know. Let us know. Drop another comment, Solian Green, so we know what the hell you're talking about. Because we've talked about a couple of things in the past 10 minutes, But
anyway, the what we started talking about with is if you're in Southern New England, especially, and you have a chance to go to the Rogue Island Comedy Festival, Doug works with the Newport Vineyards, which is a beautiful area.
It's a great
they have
crowd.
Very, very nice wines. I've been a couple times. Yep. My daughter has introduced me there, and she is she could be a sommelier, let's put it that way.
Really?
Yes. She knows her wines, and we've gone there a few times. She's introduced me to a few very nice wines there.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful grounds, and he does the festival there. He does now. I saw a post him and Katie did where they're doing multiple shows at the theater there.
Yeah. Yeah. At the Jane Pickens Theater.
And that's a gorgeous theater.
We actually filmed a scene in Boxed Man in that theater.
See, full circle right there.
Full circle right there.
Full circle right there.
We did.
If we could bring it back to Boxed Man,
we will.
What scene now? What scene in Boxed Man?
The movie theater scene. Where Rick and Rod, that
was early in the movie.
Yes, it was Rick and Rod, his friend.
Yeah.
They want to go see a Martin Scorsese film, and little trivia is the film. You'll hear it sounds like Joe Pesci, and it sounds like Robert De Niro, and it sounds like like, hey, stuff him in the trunk. That was me doing the voiceover for that. Was it really? Yeah, he had me just do
very
this
difficult situation.
He had me do this weird voiceover shit, and he goes, "Yeah, just say shit." He didn't even have a script worked out for it. But what was cool was even though we had to reshoot that scene because he fucked up on the lighting, my parents were right behind me.
Really?
In that scene. Yeah, my mom and dad were in that.
That's kind of cool.
Movie, so
if you look at that clip there right there.
My dad lives on forever.
That's awesome.
In that clip.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
It was cool.
Good for you. So when's Boxman 2 start filming?
You know what I told him? I said, if this fucking book takes off, you need to come out with Boxman 2 because that was 25 years ago. I was the new sales rep. So now you could turn around and make Boxman 2, and I'm the, bring on a new.
You're like the VP and bring on a new
sales
kid.
rep, and I'm training him. Exactly.
There's so many unanswered questions from the first one.
As Bobcat would say.
Yeah, that's why we had a Police Academy 5, because there were so many unanswered questions in 4.
I'll never forget what he said. I don't remember if it was
Soylent Green.
Oh,
it was about the panel show. The show
Amateurs doing 1 minute for a crowd, then 10 minutes a comedian panel asking questions. No. Actually, what we did was it was a regular show. So every comic had 5 to 7 minutes.
Yeah, roughly.
And then after the show, there were only 5 comics on the show. We each did some time, like 10 minutes each.
I hosted.
And then they did, you hosted, I closed.
You closed it.
With like 15 minutes or something. Yeah. It was a standard show. It was like a regular, we
gave each guy like 5, and you did like, I think 10
at the end. Yeah. So it was a regular show. And then what we did was we just had them come out and we just interviewed them about their career, their lives, how they got started, kind of what we do on here with the guests when they show up. But that was a joke. You missed that.
Yeah, it was.
All right. Scott's a little tender tonight. But yeah, it was like a normal.
Blame it on the COVID brain.
Yeah, it was a normal comedy show, but then a normal podcast where we just interviewed them, and it was really good. A lot of those guys I'd love to have back on. They were Chris Nakis, one of the guys.
Yes, that's right.
That was on.
That's why I was trying to find I thought I had a list of the names.
He's down south, and I see him on Facebook a lot. I'd love to get him back on as well because he's been doing some great stuff since that show. So,
I mean, every guy that was on that
had a great story.
Really had a good story.
Right, exactly. And Sean Rosa was another one.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have him back on because he actually runs a couple of open mic nights in Boston. But
I mean, as you guys know, anybody that's been a regular listening or following us, our favorite question is always the funny bad gig story. And
they had some good ones for newer comics.
These guys, I mean, most of those guys were, I think maximum was like 6 years.
Max
of comedy experience, and they had some hilarious funny bad gig stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
So some ones that make you like oof. There was the one, I can't remember his name, the kid with the beard that told the one of he was in Montauk, and it was just everything that could go wrong at the supper club go wrong.
Was that the younger kid?
Yes,
that like worked at Uncle Vinny's, became a headliner at his home club.
Yes,
I can't remember his name, but I'm friends with him on Facebook.
Yeah, he was great. When you watch this 5 minute of stand up, he actually looked uncomfortable, which I don't know if that's his act.
Right,
but when he sat down and started telling stories, he was awesome.
Yeah,
he was absolutely awesome and loved every second of it. And he told one of the most uncomfortable stories ever.
Yes,
when it came to the funny bad gig.
I remember
story.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna reach out to them. Listen, folks, there's millions of comics, and that's what we love about this show. We want to learn about everyone, whether you've heard of them or not. And I've said it. I haven't said it in a while, but I used to say it all the time in earlier seasons. Behind the Funny is truly about behind the funny. What makes someone tick? And it doesn't matter if they're famous or not. Even if they're not famous, comedians are storytellers, and we all have great stories to tell. So in the next few months, you will hear us bringing on some people. I'm working on getting Frankie Pace, who was one of those original Ding Ho comics who's out in LA now. I'd love to get Vinny Favorito on.
That would be a great
here's a guy who was a Boston staple. I mean, the very first time I ever played in Boston was Stitches in Boston, and it was a Vinny Favorito show. And that was the show I told you where I saw Barry Crimmins go off on stage, and I was actually afraid of him because I'm like, I don't want to get near that guy. That guy's fucking scary. But he was one of the sweetest guys off stage. So we're working on getting some famous people, but listen, take a listen to any of the episodes because everyone, whether they're famous or not, they have a story to tell. And that's what we're here to do. That's what this podcast is all about.
And the thing that we found out as we're starting our 6th year.
Imagine that.
is that, yes, they all have a story to tell and they're all different.
Exactly.
We haven't run out of funny bad gig stories. We haven't run out of reasons why people started comedy.
Right.
How they started comedy the first time.
Yep.
I think of Angel Rentis. I did it for, just to pay for my chicken wings.
Right. Yeah. Pay for chicken wings one night at an open mic. Right.
Santarelli, when his friends signed him up to go up that night. I mean, just so many different reasons why people did it. Some people dreamt about it for years and then finally signed up to do it. So, I mean, everybody's story has been unique.
Right.
Which is what makes it so interesting. Comedians are such a wide range of people, but they, in the end, all have that one need of we want to entertain you. We want to make you laugh.
They just want to make people laugh. That's it. They don't want to offend anyone. And I know you guys said it on that panel show.
Yeah.
No one gets up there to say, I want to offend as many people in this crowd as possible.
Never.
I want to walk. Well, some of them want to walk the room.
It's a small percentage. It's a very, very small percentage.
But most people just want to make people laugh. That's why we got into it. We didn't get into it, get famous to make a ton of money, obviously. But we did it to make people laugh because we made people laugh in school or with our friends,
and it felt good.
And it felt good.
Early when I started, Jerry Seinfeld came out with his documentary Comedian.
Yep.
And I watched it several times. And he said something in that really resonated with me. He said, "It is my job on a Friday night, Saturday night, when I'm on stage, that when people come to see the show that I'm on, whether they actually came to see me or they just happen to be at the comedy show that I'm on, it is my job to make that night work for them."
Mm-hmm.
Because they could have spent their money to go to watch live music. They could have spent their money to go to see a movie. But these are people that worked all week long. Some of them hired a babysitter. Some of them argued in the car on the way there. They had to find parking. They had to get into the club. They dealt with all of this to come there and sit there. Now I get on stage. It is my job for that 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever my time is, to make that night work for them. So every time I've stepped on stage since I heard him say that, I think, all right, this is my turn on tonight's show to entertain these people and make this night work for them. They chose tonight for their entertainment, after
to come and
busting
see us.
their ass all week long and everything they had to deal with. This is what they did to enjoy themselves, and it's my job to make it work for them from the amount of time I'm on that stage. And that made the biggest difference for me.
You know what? You said it. You guys said it on the panel show a couple of weeks ago. I was re-listening to it, and I think it was Brian Vincent that said it. And I actually used to do a joke about this. I would say, as a comic, my job is to say shit that everyone knows, but they're afraid to say it out loud.
Right.
That's it. And that's why sometimes it's offensive to other people, because they would never say it out loud. Some of them wouldn't even think it, but a lot of us do. And I'm just the asshole that's going to say it out loud.
Right.
And take the bullet for everyone else.
Right. Right. So, that's what we want you guys to think when you're at a comedy show.
Yeah.
Is that we're again, you said it perfectly. We're not intentionally trying to offend anybody. We're just trying to point out the things that we all may think about.
Right.
And make it funny.
Yeah.
And hopefully you find it funny. But if you don't, we don't want to upset you.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that thing. Listen to the next thing we're going to talk about.
Right.
And I'm sure we can find something that you'll find funny. That's all we want to do.
That makes it funny. Right.
And all we want to do on this podcast is find something that you guys will find interesting.
Exactly.
That's all. That's our goal at the end of the day.
And so listen, we're going to, obviously we'll reach out to our guest. Obviously something happened because I had confirmed with him a couple of days ago. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. This was, honestly, sometimes when we do these shows, I like these shows because this really is behind the funny. We just shot the shit about what's been going on in comedy, in the news, and what goes on behind the funny. And I like these kind of shows sometimes.
I do
just us talking about it.
Yeah.
Because and if you enjoy this, please tell a friend. that's what we're looking for. 5-star written review.
Oh, please.
Tell
Those
a
are
friend.
so important.
And not because we're two unknown guys. We're known in New England. We're unknown outside of New England. We're just trying to make this podcast interesting. And we know there are people that you don't have to be from New England to enjoy this. We just want to get the word out.
Yeah, comedy's universal. And I think that, you just like when I started this podcast, the idea of it was I used to love the show Inside the Actors Studio. And, I used to love when they would dive into how these actors would create characters and create scenes and that behind the curtain look. And I thought that would be interesting for comedians and figuring out how they work. So hopefully you guys find that type of stuff interesting too. And if you do, like I said, share with a friend. 5-star written review helps other people find us. That's why we ask you guys to do that for us.
Right. We're not trying to get famous with this podcast.
No,
we
just
really
want
just
as many
want
people
more
as
people
possible
to hear it.
Exactly. As many people as possible to hear us. So, and when did we do the contest too?
It's supposed to be to the end of this month, and I know we haven't gotten there.
Well, we can extend it to the end of May.
We could extend it. We'll extend it to the end of May, and then I'll work a little harder at getting my family and friends to write reviews.
Well, I'm not talking about the bikini contest.
I'm
not talking about the bikini contest. That's going to end at the fucking end of April, no matter what. I put it out there, and I would have done it, but that's it. But what we want to do is for you guys, because we love you guys and we appreciate all the help you give us. If for everybody that does a 5-star written review between now and the end of May, we're going to put all of those names into a drawing, and we are going to send you your choice of. We just had them made up, as you can see. I am wearing.
He's wearing the 100%.
100% because that is my crutch. I say 100% a lot. And we also have on our merch page, Aces saying, to your point.
Yes.
And we have the OG of Just Behind the Funny. And we have the Live from the Ace. So we have multiple different things to choose from. So you can choose a t-shirt of your choosing of all 4 of those.
Yes.
And a coffee mug.
And we are also.
And I will send those to you wherever you are in the continental U.S. So if you fill out,
fuck that. If someone from Myanmar wins this contest,
you're right.
You need to ship it to Myanmar,
anywhere,
not the continental,
anywhere in the world.
That's right. No, and I was just gonna say, and we haven't talked about it in a while, but we do have a Patreon page, and we're kind of reformatting it. But if you go to patreon.com/behind the funny, you will get additional content. You'll get some swag. And it's literally just a flat fee of $5 a month. So check it out. If you want to hear some of the, we're going to be doing less and less panel shows on here, but the panel shows are always very popular episodes. We're going to be doing those on the Patreon page specifically. So tell a friend about us. 5-star written review. Listen, if you're in the New England area and you want to see us do a live show.
That's right. We got that coming up.
Yeah, the first weekend in August, we are going to be at the new Comedy Park Comedy Club in Cranston, Rhode Island, and we're going to be doing a live Behind the Funny podcast. We're going to do a Friday night and a Saturday night. We're going to get a different guest each night, and they will be real quality guests that we're going to have on. And just like this, we're going to interview them about how they got started and stuff like that. But what's cool is if you come to the actual show, you're going to see us do stand up for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And then we're going to do a 45-minute, podcast live. So stay tuned for that. We'll have a lot more information. I know we haven't talked about the book in a while. We are working on the book of Funny Bad Gig Stories as well.
So much going on.
I've already met with a publisher and stuff like that. So we have a ton of stuff going on. But the biggest thing is to please spread the word. If you enjoy this podcast, please tell people about us and share it with a friend. And I don't know. I think we've run out of things to say. I don't want to. I'm not going to mention our guest because obviously something happened. So we will reach out to our guest.
Yeah, we'll definitely get him rescheduled
and get him. rescheduled. So thank you so much for listening. Solian Green, thanks for commenting. We really appreciate you watching, and everyone else that's watched the show tonight, and everyone that's listening on all of the podcast platforms, the audio platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, all of those. We really appreciate it. Other than that, we will talk to you
next week.